Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure what went wrong. I've never had that happen before. I had Fernanda. Who's the puppy? I'm going to have to, I had to leave and come back. I'm not sure what was going on there, but I'm sorry for the delay. Good to see you all. Uh, Let me put up my slides and I'll show you what we're going to be doing this morning. Excuse me, I didn't have it at the beginning. All right. So today, first of all, let me just say at the start, we're going to slow down a little bit today. I've given you, I'll say again later, but I gave you more assignments than I've been able to keep up with for a couple of reasons. So I'm going to postpone your next major writing assignment, at least until next week, okay? And it'll give some of you a chance to catch up. It'll give me a chance to catch up. So today what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and spend time with our syllabus, something I asked you to do after our first class. We're going to take the time today to introduce each other, to introduce yourselves, so that we get a little bit better idea of who all is in class, okay? And we'll do that after we go over the syllabus. And then just as in getting you to write that letter to me, I was trying to get you to think about yourself as a reader and a writer. We're going to watch a video today by a very fine writer, Ta-Nehisi Coates, where he talks about writing and his experience of it. And we'll use that as a little springboard into some other things that you're going to read about writing for next week. And then I plan to just go over your homework for next week, get you focused for that. And that means that today I'm going to postpone talking about a poet's boyhood at the burning crossroads. And I'm not sure, I've got to be sure I added it. I want you to plan on rereading that for next week, even if you read it and did your homework, which I'm not sure all the homework was posted, but we're going to talk about it next week instead of today. And today, I'm not going to assign you a narrative like I had said I would. We'll take that up at least next week. So let's talk about our syllabus first. And oh wait, this is just a slide about how I'm slowing things down a little. One of the things that came up, I didn't mention it last Friday in class, but right before our class last Friday, I learned my brother-in-law had died. And he had been sick for a long time. He had suffered for 2.5 years with brain cancer. And so it wasn't a surprise in that sense, but it still's been a very emotional week because of it. He died in Birmingham. I wasn't able to go to the funeral, but my family watched it over the streaming. But it's made that added to the complexities of the week for me. And it's one of the reasons I feel I couldn't keep up with everything I had assigned for you and want a little bit more time to deal with that.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Tyler. It's also true that, some of you haven't posted work to do. So this window will give you a little bit of a time to catch up, and it's important that you catch up. And especially, I want you to complete your letter assignment as soon as you can. So that's part of why we're slowing down. But with that, let's go to the syllabus. And I had asked you just a few questions about it. And so if you can, get your answers out or turn to where you think you answered these. You may know this from memory now. And I'm just going to do some cold calling to ask you to get you to answer some of these questions. And we'll start out a little slow. Let me just verify. I'm going to scroll just to be sure I see who all's here. So, Kalia, could you tell us one of the ways that you can communicate with me?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now. Hold on.
I bet you can come up with one on your without looking at anything.
Yeah, so what I had said was ways we can communicate with you are through the Google Drive, through your personal email, and on the Zoom.
And on what's the third way?
Through the Zoom.
Sure. Okay. Well, those are all accurate enough. My email is the simplest, right? Google Drive, we can talk back and forth as you can respond to comments that I make. So I hadn't really thought of that because I've been asking this question before I had Google Drive. And yes, we do communicate here on Zoom. What's another way? Let's see. Jason, can you tell us another way that hadn't been named?
Your phone number?
Yeah, you have my phone number.
Yes, sir.
And so you can text me. And the only thing that I would remind you of is I don't have all of your names and phone numbers in my phone book. And so if you do text me, please just identify yourself. And, you know, if I'm available, I'll respond quickly. If I'm not, you'll hear from me shortly. But sometimes it's simpler to text than to email. And so that's another way. There's another variation on, there's one more, and it might be that we would use Zoom to do this. But Christoph, is it Christoph or Tommy? Which do you prefer?
It's Christoph, sir.
Christoph, what's another way that we can talk with each other? Does anything else occur to you? Email, text, there's more than 3, in class, through Google Drive. What's another thing that we can do? Are you drawing a blank, Christoph? Christoph, you still there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been speaking the whole time. He was on mute. I'm sorry. You were saying, what was the question again?
No, what's another way that we can talk? What's another way that you can arrange, that you can communicate with me that we haven't named?
I'm pretty sure everything's been named. Well, other than the phone number, email.
Well, let me put it this way. And I'll give you, and maybe it's not as obvious, especially since we're meeting over Zoom. Normally, I would have what we call office hours, where you would know that, you know, at a certain points of the week, you could contact me and I would be available to speak. I don't set up office hours because we're not on campus. And so it's not quite as sensible to just say, I'll be available every Wednesday from 2 to 4. But what you can do is just ask for an appointment. And so it's a variation on calling or writing. If there's something you need to talk about, we can set a time, and we can talk over Zoom and have a one-on-one conference. So that's all. I wanted you to just realize you don't have to just do things on the spur of the moment. You can set a time. It's also easy if something's troubling you or you got a question, you might want to just stay on the line after class ends. But anyway, there are lots of ways to do it. That's the main thing I was trying to get out there.
All right.
That's okay, Christoph. No, that wasn't as obvious given the way that we're meeting right now. But it's one of the ways it's named on my syllabus. You'll see that I say that for office hours, it has by appointment. And that just means reach out to me and let's set up a time. Okay?
All right.
Okay. So I've titled this class, Stories of Our Lives, Reflecting on What Shapes Us. What do you understand that focus means for the class? what we'll be doing. And let's see. Amaya, could you answer that?
So I kind of just joined this class last week, so I'm not sure if I have the syllabus. I'm actually trying to look for my email.
Okay, I did send it to you by email. It's also in the assignment folder. So
And
be sure to
where
spend
is it?
time with it, though you're going to have a lot of the main points by the time we're through today. Let's see. Excuse me. Adriana, could you tell us what did you think? Why do we have what does the name of the class suggest about what we're going to be doing?
I understand we are going to learn from our experience.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. I got a little static when you were talking.
Sorry, I understand we are going to learn from our experience.
Through the stories. Okay, but what can somebody say a little bit more? Or Adriana, could you say a little bit more about what you mean by that? How about you go first?
So that means we can talk about, I don't know, our regular lives, our job, from our life, story class, something.
Well, think of it this way, like we read Junot Diaz's memoir, The Terror. And so part of what I want us to do is think about his life, what happened to him, and think about how that connects to us. That as we read what goes on for other people, try to use that to help make more sense of our own lives and some pieces of our experience. That's what the title's meant to help us think about. I told you last time too, where I said, maybe the first week that we're going to be reading a good number of, short essays. We're going to read some poems. We're going to read some stories. And all of those are like chunks of experience and chunks of ideas from other people that we then try to respond to make sense for ourselves. And, I could save this for a little bit later when we're talking about your letters, but I want you to understand, in some ways, the kind of writing we do isn't purely practical, though many of you talked about how you enjoy writing and you've tried to write stories, you've tried to write poems, you like to be able to express yourself in journals and so on. But, what I believe in is that if you can understand stories and poems, you can understand a lot of other things. And I also believe that by writing, you're just learning also to think more clearly, to express yourself more clearly. And that carries over in a lot of ways. It's not that important really what you practice writing about. The important thing is that you practice writing, expressing yourself and saying what you mean to, and saying that clearly and saying it forcefully. And so those are the kinds of things that we'll be working on. All right. That one was a little broader and a little trickier. Most of these are a little bit simpler. So Israel, may I ask you what grade you need to pass the class? Israel, are you there? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like a 75 or something like that.
Well, what letter grade does 75 equal?
Oh yeah, like a C. You needed like a C plus or C.
That's
minus.
correct. That's the important thing to know here is that you have to have a C to pass. A D won't get you to the next level. And there's probably one qualification about the grading in that you need to have a C for your major writing assignments. Though you do get credit for your journal, you do get credit for your participation, I have to see that you're doing satisfactory work in your writing to be able to give you a C for the semester. So For many of you, this won't be an issue. You'll do better than that. If it happens you're in that vicinity, it just means you have to work real hard to be sure that you make at least a C. And so I just want to underscore that from the first. So thank you there, Israel. What do you risk if you're absent 3 times? Ismahan, can you tell us that? Ismahan, are you there?
You say Hannah? Sorry.
That's all right. Oh, is this Hannah?
Oh,
Who's
yes, this is Hannah.
Okay, Hannah. What do you risk if you're absent 3 times?
It's lower our grades.
Yeah, you risk having a lower grade, and
Yes.
and if you're so, and let me say, the reason I say 3, I'm willing to accept that all of us may have something that come up that interferes with the class, but I generally expect you to be here, right? And you know, this semester, even if you're not here, you can see recordings. And so it should help you be able to catch up. But if you're absent 3 times, you're missing a lot of live interaction. And so I want you to be recognized that that could just lower your grade. It may lower your grade because you fall behind on assignments, but it could also lower your grade just because you need to be in class. And so connected to that, what's the consequence for if you were absent 5 times? And let's see. Abdi, could you tell us that?
You risk getting an automatic fail.
Yeah, that if you're absent 5 times or more, that's just you haven't participated enough. And I want you to think about this. Think about, like, if you had we have about 15 classes. So if you miss 5 classes, you've missed a third of the time. And I think that most of us know if we had a job and we didn't show up a third of the time, we wouldn't likely have a job very long, right? And so I want you to kind of think about it in that context. It is just a way of being responsible, all right? So thank you there. So let's see, we're almost done here. If you're absent, I tried to make a really clear statement about what you needed to do if you were absent. Jay, do you remember what that is? What do you need? What is one of the things you need to do if you're absent?
I'm sorry, I don't have the syllabus in front of me. Could you ask someone else?
Sure.
Thank you.
That's all right. Let's see. I'm sorry, I can't see all the names at once, so I'm trying to scroll through. Fernanda, do you remember one of the things to do if you're absent?
Make sure you find out what assignments you have to do, and get your assignment for the next class, and coming to class with your homework completed.
Excellent. Okay, did y'all all understand that? The point is, the simple point is, just because you're absent, it doesn't mean you don't do anything for the next class. And honestly, it's, you know, a frustrating thing for a teacher. Someone will be absent and say, oh, and come the next time unprepared or not ready to turn anything in, and say, well, you know, I wasn't here. Well, not being there is not an excuse, especially when you have posted assignments and posted classes, recordings of the classes. So just realize that if you're not here, you really need to take responsibility for getting your assignment, ask questions if you need to, and then coming to the next class prepared. If something's due the next week, you're responsible for getting it in. If you have some, you know, if you've have some serious illness or there's some complication in your life, you can let me know that, and I can be flexible. But I want you to understand that routinely, whether you come to a class or not, you need to be ready for the next one. Okay, so now we're down to plagiarism. So let me, I differentiated between there's levels of plagiarism, and I've highlighted here blatant plagiarism. Tyler, can you tell us what I mean by what we need to understand about blatant plagiarism?
To give an example, blatant plagiarism is essentially when, say for instance, if you were to give us an assignment about to like write an essay about like tree bark or something, and you just went to National Geographic and took like an article from like a tree bark section or whatever and posted it as homework.
Very good, Tyler.
Don't know why I used tree bark.
Yeah. And so, you know, what's happening there is that you're taking whole something that someone else has created and presenting it as your own work. And, you know, what's a different degree of plagiarism, you might take some information from somebody and just not name them, or use phrases from other people and not put them in quotes. If you do that, you can be accused of plagiarizing, and many teachers would fail you for that work. But that's what I call a little bit more of accidental or sloppy documentation. I don't want you to do that either. But I'm much more concerned about blatant, meaning really obvious plagiarism, where you've taken whole paragraphs or even whole essays, as Tyler was using in that example, and tried to pass it off as yourself. And, you know, every time I get into plagiarism, I want to say I really shouldn't have to talk about this, and I hope it doesn't apply to you. But, you know, I had one assignment last semester that 3 students turned in things that I easily found on the internet. And 2 of those students, I think actually all of them, were actually doing well in class. It was just like a streak of laziness, or like thinking that I wouldn't notice. But what I want you to realize about using, you know, some people say that our writing is almost like our fingerprint, that there's something very tied to who we are. And so it's really easy to spot writing that is not yours. And you should understand that if you can find something on the internet, I can too, okay? And so it's just a very bad idea. Beyond all that, you know, beyond the policing and, you know, I don't want to be a policeman. I want to be your teacher, right? Beyond all that, you're in the class to learn, and you're only going to learn by doing your own work, okay? And so it's not, don't worry. It's better to, some of you wrote that, one of you wrote in your letter to me that as long as you were making mistakes, you would keep learning. You shouldn't worry about the fear of not having done it well enough. You should take your chance and do it as best you can. And that's what you will learn from, okay? So last, what are the possible consequences of plagiarism? And who's showing up as Kootman? I don't recognize that name.
Sorry.
Yeah, who is Kootman? All right, never mind. If you heard me, I couldn't.
Kootman is me.
I'm sorry, who is
Sorry?
it? Yeah, who is it?
It's Adlet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the possible consequences of plagiarism? Can you tell us?
It's my first class. I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Let's see. Ismahan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Can you tell us the consequences of plagiarism, the possible consequences?
Is it okay if I just open up what I wrote?
What time is it where you are, Ismahan?
It's 8 p.m. right now.
Okay, so not too bad, huh?
Sorry, what did you say?
I said, so that's not too bad a time of the day. At least it's not the middle of the night.
Yeah, I know.
Forgive me for this side conversation. I learned from Ismahan's letter that she's actually in Kenya right now. Last semester, I had a student in Morocco. And one of the advantages, I guess, of being on Zoom is that you can tune in from other places in the world. One of my students last semester is from Ethiopia, and he had decided to stay in Ethiopia this semester, but is taking a full load from Bunker Hill while he's at home there. Ismahan, you got an idea here?
Yeah, yeah. I said plagiarizing and plagiarizing in any other form of academic dishonesty can result in a 0 on an assignment or to fail the course or formal academic discipline. So I basically just copied and pasted what you wrote in the syllabus.
That's fine. No, and notice that was good, Ismahan. Notice that range. First of all, I won't accept it. If I see that there's plagiarism, I won't accept it. It's also possible, though, to just fail the class because of it. I've had students where that seemed appropriate for the way that it came about. It's also true that plagiarism is grounds for being suspended from school. And that's a possibility. If you had plagiarism on your record and you plagiarized again, Bunker Hill might tell you that you can't take classes anymore, or you can't take them for a few semesters. So just realize, I mainly want you to realize this is serious. Like I said, I wish that it would never come up, but unfortunately it does. And just be sure it's not about you, right? Just do your own work and do the best you can with it, okay? So those are the highlights of what I wanted to be sure you understood from your syllabus. Let me see. Are there any other questions about the syllabus? Okay. All right. What we're gonna do next, even though we're online, I want us to introduce I want you to introduce yourself, and I'll give you some guidelines for that in just a second. But you know, it's important to have class norms. I'm sure you've had norms of one kind or another in other classes, but I want you to just think about these things together. The simplest thing is that we just really need to be respectful of each other. And the respect can take a lot of forms, but it means that we treat each other well, we treat each other kindly, we treat each other with courtesy, and so on. And it doesn't mean we always have to agree, but we disagree respectfully if that's true. I use this, I want you to think about I statements. And all I mean by that is that each of us speak for ourselves. You know, we don't speak for each other. You may sometimes think you're, speaking for people your age or people of your background, and that can be fair enough. But most of all, I want you to speak for yourself. And the third thing is very closely tied to respect. And, maybe this isn't hard when we're all online and muted, right? But we really want to have one person talking at a time and everybody else to be listening. That's a real important part of the respect. And when you're speaking, you want people to listen to you. And, the reverse of that is when other people are listening, they want you to be giving them attention. So let's be sure to do that. We also should feel free to, in the class, to know that we're going to treat everything with confidence, meaning that we're not confidentiality. We're not trying to generate rumors about anyone. We're not trying to, sometimes in essays or one thing or another, fairly private information will come up. If it's too private and you tell me, I'll be sure not to read it. But whatever we hear about people, we want to treat it. Confidentiality has to do with respecting it and not just passing it on, but it only staying with us in this classroom. So those, I'm sure there could be more. If we had a lot of time, I would get you to suggest more things. but I think this is enough of a framework for you to know, let's just be extremely respectful of each other. So let me show you what I want you to do for introductions. And I'm going to give, you might want to take notes and get ready to introduce yourself, but I'll give you an example, and then I'll put this up and give you a couple of minutes to look at it. But I want us to I want you to give us your full name. And then what are your pronouns? That's a thing very common today for us to be sure we understand are respectful of each other's gender. What is your hometown? And if it's important to you, what's your high school? If that was years ago or in another place, that may not be important. It may just be your hometown. But I want you to tell us whether your name has any particular significance. And I'll show you what I mean by that when I go over do this for myself. And, just tell us, some of you did this the first class when I got you to at least say your name. But let us know the name that you're known by your friends and family, and whether and the name you want to be known by in the class. And for many of you, I know that that's one and the same. You don't have you just say, give us your name. But if there's another name you'd prefer, be sure we know it. Apart from all those things about your name, and then I want you to think about something that has been a source of comfort and helped you cope with the pandemic, okay? Either a source of comfort or a moment of comfort, something that you've done that helped you with the pandemic. And so I'm going to get each of you to talk about these things just in an effort for us to know each other a little bit better. And so I said I would go first, so let me do that. And some of this I told you the first day of class, but let me repeat it here. My full name is Kenneth James Likas. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. That's where I grew up. I moved to Massachusetts in my early 30s, and I've now lived in Cambridge like over 35 years. So my heritage is Greek. Likas is a short version of the Greek name Eleftheroulikos. And all four of my grandparents came from Greece, though both of my parents were born in America. My grandparents came over like in 1909, pretty far back, and or before 1910, I should say. So, the shortening of my name, when my grandfather came through Ellis Island, which is where the immigrants used to, from Europe, would come through in New York, they just chopped his name off to make it simpler for to be in America. So you go from Eleftheroulikos to Likas. I've never thought to go back to Eleftheroulikos, but I do have a lot of respect for people who keep their names and all their complications. I think that's a good thing for America, for us to see the different heritages. In my name, the K and the J are in honor of my grandfather. In my Greek tradition, fathers don't usually name their sons for themselves. They name them for their father. And the K and the J actually are phonetics for Kyriakouli Dimitriou. Kyriakouli gives you the K. Demetrius is often translated as James. And that's how those came about. And they were in honor of my grandfather. My family's always called me Kenny. I want you to call me Kenny, just because I want us to be, I think it keeps things simpler and reduces a kind of hierarchy if we can be on a first name basis. So that's about my name. The other thing, it's a source of comfort. I have a good friend that right before the pandemic, we had studied a couple of really great novels together where we would read and then get together to talk. And the second one, we actually read the whole thing aloud, a very difficult novel called Ulysses, but we read the whole thing aloud to each other and talked about it as we read. Then when the pandemic hit, we decided that we wanted to keep reading and we would read outside, and we picked 4 of our favorite novels. And we met like for 2 to 3 hours a day, 3 to 4 times a week, and read all 4 of those novels from April to the end of July. And I mentioned this, a couple of you said in your letters how you like to be read to. And this was a great source of comfort. We, over a 92-day period, we met 49 times to read. So we were pretty serious about it, but it was kind of our antidote to having to stay at home and all the scary stuff around the pandemic. All right, so that's my introduction. And you can be shorter. I talk a lot, but let me put these back up, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to look at those. And then I want to take them off the screen so that I can see people as they're talking. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to jot down your own information, and then we'll work our way through the roll. Okay. So go ahead and take your notes. And I'll give you a minute. I should have asked whether anybody needed the slide up any longer. If you do, I can put it back up. Before we move on, I was just going to tell you too, I mentioned that though my grandparents were from Greece, my parents were all born here. My father grew up in such a Greek enclave that by the time he started to grammar school, the only thing he could say in English was his name. And kind of a remarkable thing to think about, being that sheltered, that's the way it would be. He went on, he was the first Greek to graduate from high school in Birmingham. He didn't go to school beyond that, but that was his achievement. I once worked with a man from Vietnam, and I was amazed. He had come over to America when he was a senior in high school. He wound up in a refugee camp in Pennsylvania. And he was a senior in high school. He wound up writing several colleges an 11-page letter asking to be admitted. And the University of Scranton sent 3 professors to interview him, and he wound up getting a full scholarship. And I was so amazed by him that here he came and landed in America and talked himself into a college, versus my father, who had been, such a kind of a ghetto that he only thing he could say in English was his name. I thought it was a remarkable contrast. All right, but let me quit talking. Are y'all ready? So if you don't, I'd appreciate it if when you speak, if you could take off, become visible, because I'd like to get a little bit of an idea of what everyone looks like. And so thank you for doing that as we speak, okay? But let's see, Jason, why don't you go first?
Alrighty. My full name is Jason Raphael Bernal. I go by him, or he, him, and his. I grew up in East Boston. I was born in Mass General Hospital, but I ended up going to school in Revere. for high school. I don't think my name has any significant meanings. I'm known as Jason to people here in Boston, but I'm known as Bernal, my last name, to all my military people, like all my friends that I served with. Jason is fine for this class. And I was actually still working, like in the military in the beginning of the pandemic. So I kind of rode the whole thing out, still working, and with the occasional, what we'd call barrack parties, like where we lived over like in the barracks, people would just come out because no one was working, like, or a few shops weren't working. So people would come out and drink all the time.
Okay. So Jason, you're a veteran then, or?
I am. Yes, sir.
Which did you serve in?
With the Marine Corps.
Good for you. Are you completely out now?
I am. Yeah, January 24th was my last day.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Very good. Let's see. Luther, how about you going next?
My name's Gerald Luther Bellington. I go by he, him, his. I was born in Cambridge, so I went to school at Medford High. I don't think my name has any like significant meaning. Like my friends and family, they either call me Lou or Luther. In this class, you can just call me Luther. During the pandemic, I feel like music helped me out because it would like calm me down like during these tough times. So yeah.
Thank you, Luther. Very good. Jay, how about you? Are you in a car?
Yeah.
Are you
I'm
driving?
not driving. No, I had to stop
Yeah, I
to
hope so. Okay.
pay attention. Yeah. Let me pull up this list. Hold on a second. Okay. My full name is Jaylenas Cuevas. My pronouns: her, she, hers. Hometown, I guess Boston. It's the longest place I've lived in. I've been here for 20 years now. My high school, I went to several high schools. Charlestown, what else? I can't remember. West Roxbury, and one other school, I can't remember the name. Does your name have a particular significance? I was named after a singer. Her name is Jailene Singtron. She's from Puerto Rico. Everyone at home calls me Jai or Stephanie. My mom calls me Stephanie. I would like to be called Jay in this class. And during the pandemic, I got through it because of my two daughters. It was hard. It's been hard. It's still hard.
Yes. So you have two daughters at home trying to school as well? Or are they back in school?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to, I was really scared at first. I didn't want to let them outside at all. But the oldest one, she's going to be 10 soon. So she's like her father and I'm letting them stay. I'm letting her go out with them and for me to go back to work because I wasn't working for like the entire pandemic. It was really hard.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate hearing from you. So, Kalia, how about you go next for us?
My name is Kalia. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I was born in Boston, like at Boston Medical, but I had moved to New York for some years, and I came back here for school. The K in my name, my great grandmother, her first name was Kathleen, and my mother was really close with her, so she gave me the K from her name. And the Aaliyah part comes from the singer Aaliyah. My mom was like a big fan of her, and it's crazy because after she gave me that part of the name, she had died the following, like a couple months later.
The singer did?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So she's like, "Oh, I named you that for a good reason." The names my family call me, they call me Callie, and I go by either Callie or Kalia if my name is like too difficult for some people, because some people be saying Kayla. So you guys can call me Callie or Kalia. And what got me through the pandemic was I had worked the YMCA and it had like closed down temporarily, but they opened back up around June. So when it was still kind of fresh, but my coworkers and my family got me through a lot, because those few short months of being home, I was like just in the house all the time, and I was losing my mind, to be honest. I was going crazy, but my friends and family got me through it.
Very good. Okay. We do need each other, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm seeing an iPhone. Is that you, Hannah?
Yes.
How about you go next, please?
Okay. My name is Hannah Dawa. I came from Ethiopia. You can use she, hers, and my high school is Holeta in Ethiopia, and my brother gave me the name Hannah. He liked the name, I think. He my older brother. And in the pandemic, I stay with my 1-year-old baby. I get to with playing and take care of him, and I'm still with him, and it's good for me to kill my time. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Professor Kenny, is it okay if I go next? Because my phone's about to die and I just wanted to introduce myself before it does.
Okay. And Ismahan, though, do come back and look at the rest of the things in your homework, okay, after I get it posted. And let me quickly say, I'm having to do the recording differently this time, so it may be a little slower getting posted, but you should be able to see that before the day's out. Or, soon.
Okay, all right.
You go next, Ismahan.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking up.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem. So my full name is Ismahan Mohammed. My pronouns are she and her. Well, my friends call me Izzy because some people, I guess, they can't say my name. So if you guys can't, Ismahan, Izzy, it's okay. So I was born in Boston. I went to John D. O'Brien. I graduated in 2018. Then I took a gap year I took 2 gap years. And my name doesn't have like any particular significance, but I was named, my aunt chose my name. And then after like a couple years, I found out like it's a famous like Egyptian name. I guess there's a singer named Isman. And a source of comfort that helped me during the pandemic is my daughter. She's 1.5. Her name's Ilyana. When I went back to work, she was like 2 months, 3 months. And then when the pandemic happened, she was like 9 months. So I feel like I missed a lot of time with her because I would work full time just to support her. So like I was kind of happy in a way about the pandemic because I got to spend more time with her and get closer to her and build a relationship with her.
Good. Thank you, Ismail. Could you say your
This
name
is
one more
Hannah.
time?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Yeah, actually the same age. I have a baby with her. Yeah, when the pandemic started, he was 3 months, about 3 months. The good thing, I stay with him now all year. Yeah, it's good.
Good.
This is good chance for sometimes birthing brings, opportunity. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Ismahan, please say, is your name 3 syllables or 2?
It's three syllables. Ismahan. Just
That's
the
what
way
I
it's
thought
written.
you were. I
Ismahan.
thought it was at one time. I thought I heard you say Isman. That's why I was checking again. Thank you for
No, it's okay.
let us know about your timing. Okay.
No, you're welcome. No oh my God.
If you
No problem. Thank you.
if you plug your phone in, you're welcome to come back. Tyler, how about
Okay.
you go next?
All right. My full name is Tyler Reed Murphy. My pronouns are he, his, and him. I live in the city of Everett. I was born in Boston, raised in the city of Everett my whole life, Massachusetts. Tyler and Murphy aren't really don't really have any meaning, but Reed, my father's middle name is actually Reed, which is why I have that middle name. My nickname, what everybody calls me, my friends and family, is Ty. In class, you may call me Ty or Tyler. It doesn't really matter. And for comfort for COVID and to get through these hard times, I've actually been taking up a bit of exercising. I've been walking up this massive hill every day, and you know, a little bit of writing, and yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Thank you, Tyler. Very good. Let's see, Fernanda, how about you next?
Hello. 1 second, let me pull it up on my phone. So my full name is Fernanda Paixão Nanô. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I was born in Brazil, northeast of Brazil. Kind of grew up in the capital, moved here about 5 years ago. I've always lived in Boston since I moved to the US. Now I live in Waltham, so not really Boston, but always Massachusetts. I don't think my high school has any importance since it's in Brazil and nobody's going to recognize it. My name, I think I was named after Brazilian artist. I think my mom thought she was pretty cool, and then she named me after her. I really like my name. I don't really have any nicknames, so you can call me Fernanda. That's fine with me. And during the pandemic, so I work in restaurants. I've been working in restaurants since I've moved here, and they were closed down for a couple of months, maybe like 2 or 3 months. And during that time, I wasn't working, which was very difficult because I worked a lot before that. But I found comfort in having time to spend with my family, which was awesome. We got to spend a lot of time together, would do cookouts and all of that. So that was really good. And I picked up a lot of reading, and I did a lot of yoga to keep my sanity. That was a really good hobby that I still have. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Fernanda. Very good. You know what? I think we have about 4 or 5 more people, but I'm afraid if we keep doing the introductions, I'm not going to get to your homework. And so I'm going to ask you, and I apologize, but I think I'll save the rest of you for the next class, okay? So we'll just spread the introductions over to the next time too. So Mani, Amaya, Israel, who is it that's behind Kootman? Abdi, who's behind Kootman?
Athlete.
Okay, Edlib, okay. Edlib, you need to send me your Gmail, okay?
Okay.
And I don't have you set up because I haven't gotten your Gmail yet. But thank you. I didn't realize that's who that was. Christoph, there are a few of you, there are just a few of you I haven't been able to introduce, but let's defer that. And I'm going to go back so that we can be sure that we get in what we needed to cover today. So bear with me a second.
Professor, if I send you my Gmail, do you think you can resend the syllabus? Because I'm still looking, I can't find it.
Who is it?
Maya.
Maya, are you, but you're in the Google Drive, aren't you? I'll talk with you after class, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
I can send it again, but it's in the assignment folder under syllabus.
All right.
Okay, so hold on just a second. All right, so let's see. So I want to let you hear from Ta-Nehisi Coates. He's emerged as one of the great writers of this time. One of the things that's interesting about Ta-Nehisi is that he says that when he was in the 7th, 8th grade in Baltimore, he was such a rambunctious kid that the teachers thought he couldn't learn. And they classified him as a, slow learner, or the person, that not to expect much from. And of course, he's grown up to prove all that wrong. One of the essays that he wrote that made him famous is a piece called The Case for Reparations. This came out probably like 6 or 7 years ago now, but it's a great essay. I'm not going to don't talk about it, but just wanted to let you know that's part of what put him on the map of saying that it was time for there to be reparations from people who had descended from enslaved people. In the video clip we're about to hear, he had only written at that time this one book, The Beautiful Struggle. That's about his childhood, and where he wrote about how he had been put on a track in school as being a poor learner, but about growing up in Baltimore. This book, Between the World and Me, won the National Book Award and really put him on the map. And since then, 8 Years in Power is a collection of his essays, and he's now written a novel, The Water Dancer. So he's written a good bit. You'll see in the interview, he says, well, I wrote only one book, and this is the only one he had written then, and all of these were to come. He also wound up getting a contract at some point to help write comics. And so he helped create or contributed to Black Panther stories and Captain American stories. So now let's hear from him. And what I want you to listen for, he's going to talk about the challenge of writing. And he talks mainly to people aspiring to be professional writers. Now, 3 or 4 of you talked about how you did like to write, and a couple of you even said you would like to write professionally. So you might want to listen closely. But even for all, whether we're going to be professional writers or not, I think he says things that are helpful for us. And so I want you to listen to him and think about, how does this apply to you? So hold on a second. Let me share screen again. Oh, where did I get there? Excuse me. This is short.
When I came to the Atlantic, was in a very frustrating period because I knew what kind of writer I wanted to be. I was not becoming that writer. I was looking for a breakthrough, and I was not finding breakthroughs at all. I was banging my head against the wall, and nothing was coming out. So it was very depressing. And so in my first year here, I actually had to finish my first book, my only book, and I had to write my first story for the Atlantic. I had to write an 8,000 word piece for the magazine, which was absolutely, I mean, it was just hell. I was on unemployment at the time. I had been laid off, and I was under a great degree of stress. I think I gained like 30 pounds that summer. But what I'm trying to say is, I think breakthroughs come from that sort of stress. When I got done that piece, when I got done that book, I was clear that these were things that I was not capable of doing before. Like the writing was very, very different. The sentences had much more power. And I think a lot of that had to do with the stress I was under. I think like breakthroughs come from putting in, an inordinate amount of pressure on yourself and seeing what you can take and hoping that you grow some new muscles. It's not really that mystical. It's like, repeated practice over and over and over again. And then suddenly you become something that you had no idea you could really be. Or you quit the field and just say, oh, I suck. I mean, that could happen too. But hopefully you have a breakthrough, I strongly believe that writing is an act of courage. It's almost an act of physical courage, you get up and you have this great idea. Maybe you were hanging out with your friends, you know, you guys were having beers and you were talking about something and you had this idea and they said, wow, that's brilliant. Someone should go write it. And you sit down to write it. And almost always what was brilliant before when you were sitting around talking is somehow not so brilliant when you go to write. It is as though you have a certain music in your head and trying to get that music out on a page is just absolute hell. And so you fail. And if you're doing it correctly, what happens is the translation of what you hear in your head, what your idea is in your head onto the page will almost always come out really badly on the page when you first write, okay? But what you have to do is you have to, you know, give yourself a day, go back, revise over and over and over and over again until you get to something that is at least maybe 70% of what you wanted to do. So you try to go from really bad to okay to acceptable. And then you know you've done your job. I never really get to that perfect thing that was in my head. So I always consider the entire process about failure. I really, really do. And I think that's the main reason why more people don't write. It's very depressing in that way. I was applying for a fellowship, and the best advice that I got, you know, because I was still in junior in my career, was from a guy who I did not get the fellowship to. And he told me that in the field of writing and in writing for magazines specifically, there are, you know, a limited number of places and it's really, really hard to make a living. But if you are a young person, that you should keep going. Because as a young person, there are a lot of young people who want to be writers. But what happens is the older you get, the path is so tough and you get beat up so much that those people eventually go to business school and they go and become lawyers. And if you find yourself continuing up until the age of say 35 or so into your 40s or whatever, you will have a skill set because you will have worked on it for a certain period of time that other people just starting out won't, and the competition will thin out. And so the basic essence of that advice I thought was perseverance. And I think that's just so key to writing, perseverance. It's the first thing I say to any young person that wants to talk about writing.
This is what it feels like wearing regular shoes. No all-around
All right.
support. And this is what it's like wearing Skechers Arch Fit footwear. It's all the comfort and support you.
Excuse me. All right, give me a second to get back to where we were. Excuse me a second. I'm all these windows get tricky to maintain. All right, I hope you could hear something in that was useful to yourself. We're running short enough of time. I'm not going to be able to talk about it as well as I'd hoped we could. But I wanted, could somebody offer one thing that you heard that applied to you?
I can't, Hannah.
Yes, Hannah.
Yes, yeah, practice makes perfect. Just keep doing something. It will be, you know, you will master it.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. Yeah, practice makes perfect. Notice he said you don't necessarily start out with anything any good at all, but you keep working on it until it gets better. A couple of things I was going to highlight. Notice he talked a lot about failure and perseverance. What does perseverance mean? Just sticking with it, right? Not being afraid of what not being good enough and persevering, keep trying. And a couple of you wrote in your letters, you were worried about the stress, that you didn't do well under stress. And we generally want to avoid stress. But notice he said he thinks it's important to push yourself, that stress is part of you challenging yourself, and that's what helps you achieve more. And notice too, he called writing an act of courage, almost a physical act of courage. And so I want you to both realize out of some of what he said, people who write well recognize writing's very hard. And I think we just need to acknowledge that. One of you, it might have been, I think Kalia, it may have been you, I'm not positive, but somebody in their letters said they had a love-hate relationship with writing. And I think you're going to read more about that in what I'm going to get you read for next week. But it's very hard to have a purely love because there's a lot of difficulty that comes with writing. And so note it, he just calls it an outright act of courage. So let me keep going so I can get to our homework. I don't want to keep you too long over. But, you know, I said last week that I would give you a narrative. I'm not going to do that. I haven't been able to get to, I haven't yet read your counter narratives. So I will postpone giving you a new essay, but we do have some writing for next week, okay? Since I'm slowing down, if you haven't posted all of your work, this is the time to do it. Some of you haven't posted any. And if you haven't posted any, you need to make up your mind whether you want to be in the class or not, because that's not going to help you succeed. So do get busy, try to catch up. Let me know if you need help from me. All right. Just a quick thing on your letters. I've read all of them that were turned in. You'll notice that I put either a check, plus, or a minus. I do that because I downplay grades initially. I just want you to, I try to give more general feedback. A check would mean you did okay, it could have been better, but that was a good response to the assignment. A plus means you talked very well about yourself and were very honest and good about evaluating yourself. In some cases, I gave 2 pluses because you wrote especially clearly. And there were a couple of cases where I probably gave 3 pluses, which meant that you had something extra good. Either you had a good voice, or you gave a lot of good detail, or it was a really rich history. But that's what the grades I gave. I read these mainly to get to know you. I'm going to read them again before we have a one-on-one, just to try to place you well. There were lots of really honest efforts to assess your writing, and a lot of you showed insight. I enjoyed your thoughts, hearing the history of what you read, how you took to reading or didn't take to reading, likewise writing. All of that was interesting, and your concerns, what you're worried about. That's helpful to know. One thing about the concerns, I wanted you to, you know, like you hear from Coach, realize there's a certain anxiety that comes with writing, right? I mean, you know, and so that's part of what you learn to live with, and part of what we're going to try to you'll try to work through in the class. And so if you haven't posted your letter, I'm going to ask you to do that by Sunday. It's really important that you do this assignment, because this is one thing that helps me get to know you. All right, here's your homework. I've got 2 articles about writing. One is called Shitty First Drafts, and by Anne Lamott. And I have made up a set of questions for you to study on it. The second one is called Mama Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Writers by Rachel Tor. And that title comes from it's playing off of a country song that was Mama Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. But she's saying, don't let you grow up to be writers. So I want you to go see why. So I want you to read both of these articles. They're both in your reader folder. The questions for them are in your homework folder, okay? And there's questions there for each of them. In addition, be sure to write 4 new journal entries. You should have your journal underway. And if you haven't done other assignments, you need to catch up, and let me know if there's a concern there. So we're right at 12:46. If you'll bear with me one more minute, I just want to look at the questions with you a second so that I can underscore something about them. Hold on. Oh, wait. Excuse me, just one time. I did that at the wrong time. Okay, I'm coming into our Google Drive. Forgive me, I thought I closed the window by accident, or I would have had this up. Okay, so the readings, those 2 readings are in the reading folder, and here's the homework. These 2 study questions. So the study questions on Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, There are 3 different questions. I want you to write a well-developed answer to each. That means not one sentence. Try to write a paragraph with some amount of detail in response to each question, okay? That's that one. On shitty first drafts, answer these 2 full, answer the first 3 just specifically and in detail, and then the last one requires a paragraph. What does she mean by shitty first drafts? Why is it okay to write them? What is she trying to teach us about writing from her discussion? And then take up this last question. Okay, so those are the 4 questions that you have. All right, so I'm going to stop there. I'm just over time. I'm sorry that I usually want to get you out. I just let a little bit of time get away, and I had that problem starting up. But any questions before we break, before we stop? If you do have a question, you're welcome to hang on a minute, but I hope that that gives you what you need to get going with your assignments. I'll be grading other things. Look for me to grade your counter narrative. I'll be looking at your journal too, and looking at your homework in this coming week, okay? So if that's it, it's good to see you. We'll see you again next Friday. Let me hear from you if you have any questions, okay? And I'll stay online just a minute in case you have something before you go. But otherwise, you're free to go, and good luck with your work.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care, Kenny.
Thank you.
Good one,
Thank
Ken.
you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Professor.
Okay, so you said to stay on to talk about.
Well, no, I was going to stay on in case, and am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, you are saying my name correctly.
Okay, thank you. No, so Amaya, did you get the email from me when I created your Google Drive areas?
I'm looking in my drive right now and I don't see anything.
Okay, well, all right, bear with me a second. Let me put it up and I'll show you what's going on.
Yeah, of course. Do you
Okay,
need me to
good.
resend my email?
Excuse me?
Do you need me to resend my email?
I don't think so. Hold on just a second. If you can get in at all, where is it? Okay. So, all right, so the main thing, were you in class last week, Amaya?
Last week, yes, I was.
Okay, well, I tried to show you, there are 2 main areas, right? And
Mhm.
so in the student area, you have your own folder, or you
Okay.
should. Oh, maybe I didn't create it. Maybe that's why you don't have it.
Okay.
What is your, you should be, I don't have you, do I? It's not showing up there. So did you get an email message from me with links? No?
I don't think so. Would it be on my BHCC email?
Well, let me just say, no, if I had set you up properly,
Mhm.
you did send me your Gmail though, didn't you? I remember, I'm pretty sure
Yeah, the first week I started this class, I sent you my Gmail.
Okay, it's my error. What I should have done when I got your email is created a folder for you with your own name.
Okay.
And so let me show you what it'll look like. I'll create this as soon as actually, I'll do it right now. All right. So Amaya, right? And the last, and
And then
name?
my last name's Avalo.
Okay. Yeah, this is my era. Okay, so now in here, I'm going to create a fold, excuse me, not that. Amaya, do you have a minute? Is it okay to do this right now? This
Yeah,
way?
of course.
Okay, good. I think it'll be easier if we do it together, if you see what I've done.
Yeah, of
Okay, so
course.
hold on a minute. This is what I did for each student, and I just overlooked doing it for you. Okay. All right. So what you've got, I'm going to send you, and so now I'm going to share this with you. All right, let me go back up here and then. I'm sorry, this is completely my error. What's your Gmail?
Amaya Avalo at gmail.com.
All one word?
And there's 2 A's in the middle. Yeah. AVALO.
Well, maybe.
Oh, no,
Okay.
there's just 2 A's, not 3.
Yeah. You know, I think that it looks like I don't have your Gmail in yet, so I'll have to send you the link after in a minute. But hold on.
Okay.
Let me stop. So what will happen though, Amaya, is I will send you a link that gives you access to this folder, and this
Okay.
will be the view that you get. And this is a folder where you put your essays. Did you write your letter?
No, I haven't written my letter.
Okay. Well, you do need to, when you do it, this is where it goes. And when you do the counter narrative on the terror, this is where it goes. Homework assignments, like what I just gave, like if you did your syllabus or what the text to me connections and the text to the world on the terror, or the homework study questions from A Poet's Boyhood at the Burning Crossroads, it would go here. And in your journal, that's where you're going to put 4 entries a week of a minimum of 3 sentences. And I'll show you where the instructions are in just a second. All right.
Okay.
The point is, though, I'm going to send you a link that will give you access here. Now, the other place that you have access is to the assignments folder. And this is where I was trying to direct you. Like, see, in here is your syllabus. And as soon as I give you permission to get in this folder, you can find your syllabus there. In here are your readings. This is where you'll find your readings for this week. And if you're way behind, you should do the most recent stuff, okay? But I do think it's important to do, you do need to have read The Terror and The Poet's Boyhood, because you're going to be writing a narrative soon, all right?
Okay.
This is where I put the slides. This is where the homework assignments are. Those are the study questions for today and the ones previous, okay, for The Terror and The Boyhood.
Okay.
So as soon as, here, let's do this while we're here too. I'll just go ahead and do it. Your name, I just thought that I had done this. But I'm sure that if I had, it would be here. Okay. That's it, right?
Yes.
I'm entering it correctly. And then I'm going to do this too. I'm going to add you to a group mailing list. So now I'm pretty sure that if I go back here and we come out here and let's go to your folder first. Now when I go to share it, there's your Gmail. So this is going to send you permission to get into that folder. Okay.
Okay.
And now I'm going to send you another one.
Yep, I just got the email.
Okay. Now I'll send you another one that gives you permission to get into the assignments folder.
Okay.
You know, and really that's, I apologize for that.
Oh no, you're fine.
I know, but I don't want to contribute at all to give you an excuse to not be caught up. Okay.
Yeah.
And I want you to catch up as quickly as you can. And
Yeah.
depending
Same
on
here.
how far behind you are, you may have to be a little selective, but definitely read everything that you're supposed to read. And,
Okay.
and it may be, I want you to think, I want you to do your letter is the most important thing to write first.
Okay.
But then after that, if you'll write me when you post that, I'll do focus on your reading, and maybe just next do the counter narrative on the Terra. If you were here last week to hear us, how we talked about that. And the assignment for that is in here where it says essay assignments. There's the counter narrative.
Okay.
All right. And if you have questions, Amaya, feel free to write me or call. Okay.
Okay, I will. Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Professor.
You have a good day.
You as well. Bye-bye.